Dinge aus dem Nähkästchen erzählt hat, unter anderem ihre Liebesgeschichte mit Will und dann in Tränen ausgebrochen ist, darf sie trotz formaler Fehler, die Postleitzahl fehlte auf dem Formular, darf sie einreisen und der strenge Beamte gibt ihr sogar noch den warnenden Rat mit auf den Weg, passen Sie auf, zu was Sie Ja sagen. Nathan, die meisten kennen ihn, Will Trainers ehemaliger Physiotherapeut, arbeitet inzwischen für den New Yorker Millionär Mr. Gopnik mit seiner jungen zweiten Gattin Agnes, die aus Polen kommt. Nathan hat jetzt diesen Job als Assistentin der Lou organisiert, hat sie damit nach Amerika gelockt. Sie ist Assistentin für Agnes und soll die junge Ehefrau im Alltag und bei ihren vielen gesellschaftlichen Verpflichtungen unterstützen. Jojo, did you choose New York because it is the place to start new things? Or do you not know and love New York? Did you actually walk down the streets or walk into the houses that you described?
Yeah.
What was first?
Well, I didn't walk into the houses that you described because you don't get to walk into those houses. And I know because I tried. I walked along the Upper East Side and spoke to every doorman and said, I'm an author and I'm writing a book about houses up here. Is there any chance that I get... They were like, no. But I have a friend who knew somebody who lived in one of those buildings, and she very kindly invited me to tea when I was in New York. I did a couple of weeks researching. I wanted to do all the things that Louisa did, and so I got into one of these places and saw how the building worked and where the security was and all those different things.
And the idea of choosing New York, was it very clear right from the start? Or?
Yeah, I wanted somewhere that was really testing and it had the potential to be either a great success or a horrific disaster. And New York is one of the few places where you haven't got the language barrier. You know, if I'd sent her to Tokyo or Rio de Janeiro, you would have had language issues as well. And I wanted the real growth to be, the focus to be on her inside rather than her learning a new language or adapt.
Ja. Es war ziemlich bald klar, dass Lou nach New York gehen würde. Einmal gab es ja nicht die Sprachbarriere und Jojo, war es sehr wichtig, dass Lou sich innerlich und als Person entwickelt und sich jetzt nicht nur mit Sprachenlernen da abgeben muss in dem neuen Leben. Und sie sagt, New York ist ein Ort, da kann man sich unter Umständen unheimlich toll entwickeln und man kann da die schlimmsten Katastrophen erleben. Also ein sehr anspruchsvoller Ort für so eine junge Frau, die mit dem Leben neu beginnen möchte. Und was die Recherche angeht, sie ist zwar die ganzen Straßen auf und ab gegangen, da am Central Park und Fifth Avenue und Upper East Side, und hat, weil sie auch einen Mann an der Rezeption braucht, einen Doorman, in allen Häusern, die hier beschrieben werden, ist sie reingegangen, ob sie denn mal, sie sei ein Autorin, da mal reingucken könnte. Immer, go away, gehen Sie weg. Also an diesen Rezeptionisten ist sie nicht vorbeigekommen. Dann hat eine Freundin sie netterweise eingeladen zum Tee und ihr so gezeigt, wie so eins dieser Häuser, der Dakota Building und sowas hat man ja schon gehört, wie das funktioniert. Und dank dieser Freundin lernen wir jetzt alle bei der Lektüre, wie diese Häuser funktionieren. Im ersten Abschnitt, den dann gleich die Milena lesen wird, lernen wir folgendes Personal kennen. Ashok, den Mann an der Rezeption unten, ganz nett, jedenfalls für die Leute, die drin wohnen. Michael, Mr. Gopniks Assistenten, und Gary, den Fahrer. Und ich möchte noch sagen, dass ich immer unheimlich gerne mit Milena zusammenarbeite. Wir machen das schon sehr lange und wir sind so ein Team. Wir werden sogar nach Hamburg exportiert und dürfen da gemeinsam in Bäuchen von Schiffen beim Harbourfront Festival Autoren und Autorinnen präsentieren. Also,
it reminded me I was no longer in England. A solid grey millipede firmly obscuring the man's upper lip. A cowboy moustache, the miniature head of a broom that meant business. You just didn't get that kind of moustache at home. I couldn't tear my eyes from it. Man, my American accent is really bad, by the way. The only person I had ever seen with a moustache like that at home was Mr. Naylor, our maths teacher, and he collected biscuit crumbs in his. We used to count them during algebra. The man in the uniform motioned me forward with a flick of his stubby finger. He did not look up from his screen. I waited at the booth, long pool sweat drying gently into my dress. He held up his hand, waggling 4 fat fingers. This, I grasped after several seconds, was a demand for my passport. Name? It's there, I said. Your name, ma'am? Louisa Elizabeth Clark.
I peered over the counter, though I never used the Elizabeth bit because my mum realised after they named me that would make me look busy. And if you say it really fast, it sounds like lunacy. Though my dad says that's kind of fitting, because, I'm not a lunatic. You wouldn't want a lunatic in your country. My voice bounced nervously off the Perspex screen. The man looked at me for the first time. He had solid shoulders and a gaze that could pin you like a taser. He did not smile. He waited until my own faded. Sorry, I said. People in uniform make me nervous. I glanced behind me at the immigration hall, at the snaking queue that had doubled back on itself so many times it had become an impenetrable, restless sea of people. I think I'm feeling a bit odd from standing in that queue. That is honestly the longest queue I've ever stood in. I've begun to wonder whether to start my Christmas list. Put your hand on the scanner. Is it always that size? The scanner, he frowned. And the queue. He was no longer listening. He was studying something on his screen. I put my fingers on the little pad, and then my phone dinged. Mum, have you landed? I went to tap an answer with my free hand, but he turned sharply towards me. Ma'am, you are not permitted to use cell phones in this area. Oh, it's just my mum. She just wants to know I'm here. I surreptitiously tried to press the thumbs up emoji as I slid the phone out of view. Reason for travel? What is that? Came Mum's immediate reply. She had taken to texting like a duck to water and could now basically do it faster than she could speak. You know my phone doesn't do the little pictures. Is that an SOS? Louisa, tell me you're okay. Reasons for travel, ma'am? The moustache twitched with irritation. He added slowly, what are you doing here in the United States? Oh, I have a new job, which is I'm going to work for a family in New York, Central Park. Just briefly, the man's eyebrows may have raised a millimetre. He checked the address on my form, confirming it. What kind of job? It's a bit complicated, but I'm sort of a paid companion. A paid companion. Well, it's like this. I used to work for this man. I was his companion, but I would also give him his meds and take him out and feed him. That's not as weird as it sounds, by the way, because he had no use of his hands. It wasn't like something perverted. Anyway, it ended up as more than that because it's hard not to get close to people who you look after. And Will, the man, well, he was amazing, and, well, we fell in love. Too late, I felt the familiar welling of tears. I wiped at my eyes briskly. So I think it'll be sort of like that, except for the love bit, and maybe the feeding. The immigration officer was now staring at me. I tried to smile. Actually, I don't normally cry talking about jobs. I'm not like an actual lunatic, despite my name. But I loved him, and he loved me, and then, well, he chose to end his life, so this is sort of my attempt to start over. The tears were now leaking relentlessly, embarrassingly from the corners of my eyes. I couldn't seem to stop them. I couldn't seem to stop anything. I'm sorry, it must be the jet lag. It's something like 2 o'clock in the morning in real time, right? Plus, I don't really talk about him anymore. I mean, I have a new boyfriend, and he's great. He's a paramedic and hot. That's like winning the boyfriend lottery, right? A hot paramedic. I scrabbled around in my handbag for a tissue. When I looked up, the man was holding out a box. I took one. Thank you. So anyway, my friend Nathan, he's from New Zealand. He works here and he helped me get this job, and I don't really know what it involves yet, apart from looking after this rich man's wife who gets depressed. But I've decided this time I'm going to live up to what Will wanted for me, because I didn't get it right before. I just ended up working in an airport. Froze. Not that there's anything wrong with working in an airport. I mean, immigration is a very important job, really important. But I have a plan. I'm going to do something new every week that I'm here, and I'm going to say yes. Say yes to new things. Will always said I shut myself off from new experiences, so this is my plan. The officer studied my paperwork. You didn't fill out the zip code. He pushed the form towards me. I checked the number on the sheet that I'd printed out and filled it with trembling fingers. I glanced to my left, where the queue at my section was growing restive. At the front of the next queue, a Chinese family was being questioned by 2 officials. As the woman protested, they were led into a side room. I felt suddenly very alone. The immigration officer peered at the people waiting, and then, abruptly, he stamped my passport. Good luck, Louisa Clark, he said. I stared at him. That's it? That's it. I smiled. Oh, thank you. That's really kind. I mean, it's quite weird being on the other side of the world by yourself for the first time, and now I feel just like I met my first nice new person. And you need to move along now. Of course, sorry. I gathered up my belongings and pushed a sweaty frond of hair from my face. Ma'am? Yes? I wondered what I'd got wrong now. He didn't look up from his screen. Be careful what you say yes to.